So you're super excited. You bought a course, or maybe you found something on the internet where you're going to learn how to trade like some other trader. But is it really that easy? So today we're talking about a very fascinating concept to me, and it's one that's actually very tricky, and I was totally fell into the trap of it and couldn't understand, why is that the case? And it took me for a while because it's just such a small little part of psychology, but it's one of those things where just marketing, sales, it just really does a great job of hiding this fact, shoving it to the side, because from a marketing sales perspective, right, you don't care about how things actually work, you just care about how do I get people to click the buy button. And as traders, whether you're new or maybe you've been around a while, your ideal setting is, hey, I need to learn how to trade like somebody that is successful. And that seems, no kidding. But that's not how it works. You can't go that path, you can't go that route, because it just is not that simple. Think about it. Success rates, failure rates. I talk about it in almost every video because it's true. If it was that easy as, let me find somebody that's successful and then I'll learn how to trade like them and I'll be good. Well then, if that was the case, the success rate would not be 10%. So yes, the universal mindset out there is, teach me to trade like you. You could be, some other trading person that says they're good, or says they have a system, or says they have signals, or says they have whatever. But this is totally flawed, and I'm going to explain why that's flawed, where this kind of dream crusher zone is. And you're going to see where dreams go to die, because yes, it sounds fantastic. Right now you're thinking, wait a second, this is about as common sense as it can get. You need to trade like somebody that's successful. Kind of, but I'm going to present to you and say that this is false. This is not how it really works. And my business model, my theory, and I think I have very good evidence that this is correct, is this. Teach me to use what you use to trade. Now that might be a little bit different, but there's a massive difference between these two. So they may seem, okay, that's like a small little difference, but it's actually very, very big. And look at it like this. If I say, hey, if you want to have fun, come jump off cliffs. If you want to have fun, let's go skydiving. To some people, okay, this person's, successful. This person says that's how you have fun. Let me go jump off cliffs. Let me go, scuba diving in underwater caves. Let me go skydiving. That's not going to sound very fun to some people. That's not going to be fun. Just because they're saying that's how they do it doesn't mean that that's how you're going to do it. And that's where, a lot of hiccups get made. So I want to go through the two different scenarios and show the difference between teach me to trade like you or teach me to use what you use to trade. So we're going to go over this diagram here, and this is what's going to break down, the big difference here. And we'll just take me, for example. I'm not necessarily saying that you care at all, how I trade, but let's just pretend for example's sake that, I think this Clay guy, I think he's a good trader. I think he knows what he's doing. I want him to teach me how he trades. So there's two paths that, I could go. And one path is very, very beneficial from a business, from a marketing, from a sales perspective, because it's very easy to say, hey, trade like me. I'll teach you exactly how I trade. And then you're going to make all sorts of money. And then, have fancy this, that, and the other. You get the point. But let's go through this real quick. So the model of teach you, so you the viewer, so if I'm going to teach you how I trade, okay, well, how I trade. The big problem, and where we get up here with the dream killer zone, is because of this right here. Personality and risk tolerance. And the big question here goes back to, do you like skydiving? Do you like maybe just reading a book by the fire at night? I don't know. What is your definition of fun? What is your personality of risk? To me, I have no desire ever to go skydiving. Roller coasters, no thanks. I can find other things to get exhilaration from outside of roller coasters. Other people are thinking, how can you not like roller coasters? How can you not want to at least try skydiving? You could leave me all sorts of different opinions, but that illustrates my point. We're all different creatures. We all have different personalities, and within that comes different risk tolerance. So my point being, if the way I trade involves doing things that make you feel uncomfortable, it's not going to turn out well. So, you go through the sequence. You sign up for somebody's course, they're going to teach me how to trade, and then, okay, all right, yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it. I'm supposed to do that, then I'm supposed to do this. And then you go out into the market. You've learned, so to give credit where credit's due, good job. You've invested into your education, you're trying to learn, awesome. But you're learning one person's way. So you go out into the market, and then all of a sudden, this is the big question right here. What box are you going to be able to check? If you don't feel comfortable with the way I trade, or a specific little thing that I do, and you have to check the no box because you don't have mental peace when you're out there with real money on the line, the strategy is not going to work. I'm not saying the strategy doesn't work, but it works for that person. It's not going to work for everybody. Why doesn't it work for everybody? Because again, do you like skydiving? Do you like roller coasters? We're all different. So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, all right, in this case, yes or no. Now, so for some people, it's going to work. And that's why, the people selling, hey, check out this student, check out that student. Yeah, there's a few students where, they just actually happen to line up and, their personality levels, everything meshed together. But in most cases, it doesn't mesh. People feel uncomfortable. They don't have mental peace. And then the strategy just doesn't work out for them. Whereas what I teach and what you should be learning to do, whether or not you use me as a teacher is besides the point, but you need to learn about the tools. What are people using? Not how somebody trades, but what are they using? Because think about it. When you know the tools, when you know what they're using, and then how you can use that, when you get to this zone, you can say, okay, if I use the tool in that way, I don't really feel too good about it. But since I know how to use the tool, I know how I can manipulate the tool to do something else. So I'm gonna move it over here and use a tool like that. In my case, this for me is charts. The tool that I teach is charts because charts can be used in many ways and they can be used to fit some sort of strategy, some sort of system that fits into your personality and risk tolerance. So that way, when you go out here into the market, you can say, yeah, mentally, I do feel mentally at peace because when I was back here, when many people are getting, their dreams crushed because they're being taught to do things that make them feel super uncomfortable. In this case, I was able to manipulate the tool, alter the tool to my favor. And now when I'm out in the markets, I feel much better about things. Now, I'm not saying this means 100% chance of success and a guaranteed chance of success, but I am saying the odds are much more in your favor. So keep that in mind. You can't just pigeonhole yourself into one exact little strategy for somebody because that person may be, trading in a way that you just think your mind just doesn't comprehend, your mind just doesn't have at ease. And if you've ever traded, you know that peace of mind, confidence in the strategy, confidence that you can execute it is a huge, huge part of it. So keep this in mind, you got to learn the tools. You got to learn what people are using. Not teach me every little nook and cranny of what you're doing. It doesn't work. So what, and then use. So teach you what I use to trade. I'd be happy to do that because when you know about the tools that I'm using, you can morph, you can manipulate, you can mold a strategy into what what kind of floats your boat, what you feel most at ease with. So take this stuff, in mind. I realize that it seems that simple, but usually things that seem really simple aren't that simple, and this is a perfect example of that, especially when it comes to the market. So get out there. I'm not saying you have to learn charts. I'm super biased. I think that's a great tool to use, yeah, I guess to pat myself on a little bit, I'm very proud to say that I have, people that are successful in options, that are successful in regular stocks, even a few that are successful in Forex. How can this be the case? Because I'm just teaching a tool, and the tool of charts can be applied to many different areas. So I'm not going to sit here and say I have the, secret sauce for Forex, or I have the secret sauce for penny stocks, or I have the secret, none of that. I'll teach you tools, and then you can go out there and find what part of the market, what strategy within that market best suits you. So, and if you read through the testimonials, you'll see there's lots of people that are doing options, stocks, Forex, and it's because I'm providing flexibility, and you need to give yourself flexibility. So again, whether or not you choose to go with me, that's fine. But give yourself flexibility. Don't pigeonhole yourself into one person's exact specific trading strategy. It just doesn't work out. So get out there, free up your options, free up your choices, and learn a tool instead of trying to just don't pigeonhole yourself. Get out there, trade without emotion.